Let me go through the agenda. Okay, so this is a agenda, but for whole of the session, I just want to uh, focus on three things: what is Prism, why is Prism, and how we Prism. Okay, what, why, and how. What means like what you understand by Prism, why we need Prism, and we know when we know okay why we need Prism, then how we can implement it. Okay, so this is a three basic code for this course content, and I as this is a corporate training, so I do not want to go through. Okay, we are going for some exam. We are going to give some paper and need to clear the paper. The objective of this session is something you can better understand how we can use Prism in our current business system, current client, and how we can implement the Prism for the current architecture of the business or for the other client or unit. But let me go through the today agenda, which we will cover. Definitely, first is overview of Prism Analytics. Then, what are the data sources? Many of you already aware of. What are data sets? What do you mean by data sets? What you understand by this data set? And third, and the last one, the data set pipeline. How the data set relate with each other. Okay, so these are the some agenda which we need to cover today. Okay. Uh, before go through and I read all this thing, and many of you are aware of, but many of you which new to Workday, as I think Pile, right? Pile, who comes from data analytical, not have much idea with Workday and Prism. I just want to give a little bit overview what is Workday right now, how it is working. So I hope you all aware of the PeopleSoft in the past. No, probably you worked with the SAP in the past, right? Many of you worked with the SAP in the past. So like we have SAP, we have also one of the ERP called PeopleSoft, where I also work. I started my career with the PeopleSoft. This is also one of the ERP which is very popular in the past days, and many clients using the PeopleSoft ERP for many of the other things which Workday is doing right now. What happened from PeopleSoft? Two of the persons, one is David Duffield, and one person Anil Busari, who is an Indian. Okay, so these two folks have some conflict, whatever happened, and they move out from PeopleSoft, and they created a new ERP called Workday. Okay. And I remember almost is 2004 or 2003 when we trying to move our PeopleSoft into a PeopleSoft Gold, some other ERP, the upgraded ERP of PeopleSoft. Workday comes in the market. Okay, and we as a PeopleSoft consultant, when we saw the Workday first, this really impressed me. Okay, we have the GUI, we have the workflow, we have many of the things which PeopleSoft is not able to provide in the past. The most important thing is this is a cloud based. This is a cloud based. You do not need to install any cloud, any server, any client server, anything on your desktop to run any SQL or whatever you need to do. That everything is going at the background. So you just need to learn how to use the Workday from developer perspective also, and from end user perspective, you can see all the GUI in the Workday itself. In the past, what happened when we have the PeopleSoft? Sometimes we need to create a overlap other system based on Java or .NET, which can where we can use the PeopleSoft database, but for the GUI perspective, we need to use some other system. Okay, but with the Workday, we have a one open system where we can use all the thing in work in one place, and that is a cloud based. Okay, so that is the best important part of Workday, and one most important uh, thing or probably which I like most about the Workday is the security. Okay. Many of you work for reporting, or many of you work for other domain also, but you also see how the reporting configured in Workday. We do not need to do anything. We just need to use their security part, and that help us to restrict the data as per the business needs or as per the user role assigned to the system. Okay, is any other thing any of you want to highlight with the Workday which you find the hand Workday is a very good or good tool to use that feature? See, I can have two type of session. One, I keep talking. I can give you. I can show you how the person works. Second, we can talk each other to make it more interactive. First one is easy for me. But second one is more excited. Where I I also love to know how what you feel about Workday. This is my experience or this is my view for Workday. Where I love the Workday security feature. Three advantages definitely upfront. One is the cloud based, okay, and which you mentioned the first one, the cloud based. Second, the GUI, which automation. Third is definitely security. Anything else? Fourth, I can tell you, if you see this picture, you can see many of the domain. And if you see the financial management SCM software vendor, many of the domain you can find in one place. I just learning some of you work for a total compensation, if I have right. Some of you work for talent acquisitions, or some of you work for your recruiting module. You can see all the domain in one place, and that's keep increasing. I think some years back we do not have finance management good into Workday. Uh, some people will still using the Microsoft Finance or Oracle Finance, but I think 3 or 4 years back we Workday also moving in finance management, and many of the clients I know, especially in APAC side, APAC means like Singapore, Thailand, all this India, they are moving to Workday as the finance manager for them. Okay, so these are the four or the most benefit which I can say about Workday. Okay, now let's move on to next one. What is Prism? But before I move to this Prism, many of you work for reporting, okay, and many of you already aware of the reporting methodology. If you need to interact with the other system outside of the Workday, let's think about we do not have Prism, okay. Before Prism, if we need to talk about other systems, suppose we have uh, we have one client. Just give you example, one of the client who have you who are using SCM for Workday, who are using Absence for Workday, but not using learning for Workday. Okay, we have other tool where they use learning, either some total or some other ERP where they're using for work for learning module. Okay, but somehow we need to bring this data into Workday so that we can create some analytical data on that one. Okay, suppose how many worker enrolled for some specific course, how many worker completed the course, what is the duration, all this thing. Because before coming to Prism, this is very tough to get external data into Workday, which is a common platform for suppose one of the client we're using for all of the model for Workday, but they're using learning for other ERP, not Workday. It's very tough to bring those data into Workday and uh, create reporting article on that specific data, right? How Prism helps? Prism helps. So no, I I forget. I think we stop. Many of you create a report, right? Many of you suppose you're creating a report. Uh, you're creating a report where you need to bring the head count of some specific organization, right? Head count detail. Or suppose where you want the detail, okay, how many worker is inactive and what are the date of birth, all the detail, right? What you will do? What is the first step you do? Select data source, right? Where you because you know if I need to get all this field, I need to select the data source where I can find all the field which related to my report, right? So that data source is a Workday delivered data source. Yeah, that's the Workday delivered data source. Only we can probably do not I can say a different way also, but while you're creating a report, only if I need to go with simple one, suppose I'm creating a simple report, advanced report also. But if I need to create simple one, if I select the data source like all active intermediate data source, just example, I can select only those fields which relate to which defining that data source first, or the field which is belong to that related business object. What Prism gives you, while you can bring the data from external system, as I mentioned, you bringing data from a learning, you bringing other data like learning. But as I take the example, learning is other external source sitting or sitting for client. I can bring data from external system that I bring with the help of Prism. Then I can create a custom data source where I can have all the field which I need for my the custom reporting, where I can bring data from learning. That is Prism. Now, if you see this written with Workday Prism Analytical, you can analyze your Workday and non-Workday data together without having to export into a separate data warehouse and BI application. Okay. Second, which Prism help us, probably I can define the Prism that other way also. Uh, Many of you heard about the index data source, right? So I just give you example. When we using a Prism data source, when you create a Prism data source, when a custom data source, that always index one. Okay. And the second benefit is that you can secure that data source with a custom domain object. Suppose if you created some data source, and as we have currently also, we have the custom data like Workday data source, which is secured by some specific domain security, right? In Prism also, you can define the custom data source security with the custom security. This all we can define as a Prism. Before I go to some Prism analytical phases, how we can create and all this thing, I can show you on some domain entertainment how that looks like. But before that, I give you what. Okay, what is Prism? My second question is that why we need Prism. Why means many of the uh, if you talking about first, probably let me ask on this. You work for internal client only for Airbus, or you work for some external client also? My question is that probably if suppose I'm a you are a Workday, right? I'm a client. Workday told me, okay, buy Prism license from me. You all know, right? Prism is a licensed software. Okay. Let me give you Prism is a licensed software. So every client who is in Workday doesn't mean they have the Prism. They need to buy this license from Workday. Okay, and that cost me, I think that is 2K, I think around that one cost. I'm not aware of the cost right now, but you need to buy the license for Prism. And Workday encouraged to, okay, please go and please buy the license of Prism. But they definitely uh, then why you need Prism? Why I need to buy Prism? Why I need to pay this much of money for Workday? I have worked there, I can use the creator report, but why I need to use it? So definitely we have some use case, defined use case. But that doesn't mean only this use case which we can use in industry. When we go further, probably you have some other use case also where you think we can use Prism. But we have some defined use cases. First use cases, which I already explained by the definition of Prism, we need to bring data from external system into one common platform like that is Workday. That is one of the common use case of Prism. First use case, which I explained the external one, we have to bring the data from external system. Second use case, which someone defined me during the initial discussion, to bring data from two different data sources. Okay. Sometimes we have the options. I can talk about the reporting language. We have the options where we can use the calculated field where we can get extract data from other data sources which have some linking with the primary data business object. But sometimes we have some data source we do not able to make any link. Okay. I just take example. We have one data source called expense. Okay. We have one data source called worker. Sometimes we need to bring a report or analytical thing on these two data source, where we need to bring field from the same data source to different data source into one common report. I need to bring some analytical thing. Uh, it's not very easy. Okay, earlier and we are not able to do this. So Prism help us. We can bring data from these two data source, and then we can create a custom data source to the common field. Okay. So second one. Third use case is bring the historical data. What is mean by bring the historical data? Sometime suppose client comes to Workday, but before coming to Workday, they're using other ERP. Okay, so we implement some of the mention like project billing for Workday for client, but they want to bring some historical data from other system into Workday. In that case, also we can use Prism to bring that data back to Workday. Okay, where we can create some report or some historical data. Okay. The fourth one, which is not common use case, but this is a practical use case which we find for other client, which I also mentioned. Many of the data source which is not indexed, and we have some performance tuning uses. So we use the Prism to create that data source or convert data sources into index one, and that helps us to performance. So these are the four common use case which I can say where we need to use Prism. So normally when we go for Workday define all this defined use case, but we have some also defined use case or practical use case which we can encounter when we keep implementing for other client also. Okay, so I did we go to this Workday. Okay, so you all can see that, right? Okay, so normally, as I mentioned, Prism is a licensed software, right? So probably your other client to be who are using Workday, but that doesn't mean they are also using Prism until unless they buy a license from a Prism license from Workday. Okay, so if you see, uh, here and this is a new homepage of Workday. I'm sure many of you confused. I also confuse sometimes. I'm still getting familiar with the new layout of the Workday. But sometimes where I can create this prism, what is the tool and where we can start, how we can start. Okay. If you see this homepage, I'm not sure where I can start the Workday. I can know whether reporting, I can say create custom report. But I cannot where I can see the prism thing. Okay. I can see all this option, but I'm not seeing the prism part. Okay. So what you need to do, I say I still need to familiar with this new Workday. See this data catalog. So this is a prism where you can create all of the prism thing. So we need to start. If you need to start anything in prism, we need to first get into data catalog. Okay. This is the first thing which you need to do on tenant. This is not automatic comes in. What you can do, you can go into enable into dashboard and you can put that into your home page. So every time you do not need to go and search it. I don't try to find it with a new system, but I'm not somewhere not able to find. Okay, so while you log in into tenant, if you want to use Prism, go and data catalog. If you do not have access to that Prism domain security, sometimes what happens, we have the Prism enabled in the system, but you do not have access to Prism domain security. You are not able to select, you're not able to search this data. Let me come to content. Okay, so now we learn what is Prism and why we need to Prism. This is two very basic thing which we can do. Now the bigger part and the most important part, how. Okay. So how can create a Prism data set? What's that? How we can apply the data security? How we can publish? How we can analyze and visualize the data? Uh, Before we jumping into this content, Let me give you the definition of dataset. Okay. A dataset is a Prism analytical object that controls some underlying data and describes some processing logic to manipulate the data. A dataset is a description of data, otherwise known as a metadata. So this is a common, very layman language or layman definition for dataset. But from developer perspective, how I define a dataset? It is something where I can bring all data from external system. Okay, developer language. So a very important thing which I mentioned to many of the client and many of my end user also, many of the company where I go for corporate training. Uh, while creating a prism or implementing a prism, one thing very important is designing. Okay, because they're bringing a data from external system and you need to use many of the other database concept. So you need to be very sure what concept you're using in and how. See, in coding, many of you already have some experience with the IT technology, but I have experience almost 20 years of IT technology. Uh, in early days, when I start this journey of IT, I used to write a code in Java. Okay, and now we have many of the editor where we know how we just put dot. Even if you're using some of the studio programming, also just put some dot, and you can see the all the function or the something comes in automatically. Okay, but when we started the technology, the Java coding, that time I have the notepad only. Okay, so we need to remember all of the function name, all of the attribute name, method name, and everything. Uh, how that helps me? That helps me to give a proper naming convention of the function name or the module name or the any of the attributes name. Okay, because how that helps, if you write some of the code, if you write some design of, probably if you go into Workday reporting also, and this is additional thing which I'm giving you. Sometimes we use the calculated field, but we write any of the thing, because I said, okay, I'm doing it. Just write CF test 1, test 2, test 5, test 6, whatever. We keep mentioning that and we keep using that into our report. Okay. But somehow, if you yourself need to go into the system and need to check, okay, I'm having some issue in the report and let me see how the calculated field works, it will not help you. It will not help you to, okay, how that calculated field define you to go to definition, you need to see how that control, how that works, everything is that. But if you put the proper naming convention of your calculated field with some definitions, that easily give you, okay, what is the calculated field use, and when I use this, many of the other thing, and sometimes that also help you to tune the performance of your report. Okay, we can extract data many of the way, but how the good way we can extract the data into reporting, that is a better way. Okay, so in the Prism also we can blend the data from external system, but how we can blend in the data, what we can do, what we can make notice or make important in our day-to-day Prism life, so that all the Prism data source, when we have the Prism data source ready, and when someone is going to create that report, the report looks to be very robust, reusable, and the performance tuned, the report of performance of the script tuned. Okay, so these are some basic thing which we need to figure out, or which you need to take care while you blending all this data, right? Why I'm saying this, because I bring to data set. We have three type of data set. Okay? One, we our terminology called BDS. Okay, sometimes we say BDS. Okay, BDS means base data set. Second is DDS, derived data set. Okay? And third and final one is PDS, the Prism data set. Sometimes we Prism publish data set also. Okay? So these three are the basic data set which we can start. But uh, how we know which is a base data set, which is a derived data set, and what is the Prism data set? Okay? Let me go to each of them. go to one of the tenant and show you. I hope they have. So if you see this, all this type, you see the name. This is derived data set, derived data set, derived data set. Let me go into, and I will explain what does the lineage mean, but I just want to give you one of the heads up how that helps the BDS and ADS naming convention. So you see, this is a lineage. What does lineage means? Like how the data flow. Okay. So every time if you see this color, the blue one, okay, give me 1 minute. This is a prism. This is not a BDS. Let me create new one. First, go to content first. Okay. Let me give you a definition, then I go into practical. The first is base data sets, we normally also call as a BDS. What does it means? And which I also suggest and which you also follow, even what you also follow. Your BDS should be a raw data. A raw data means, as I give you example for the learning module, where I bring data from a learning module into Workday and need to create all this data source. So your BDS should be always a raw. Raw means what you're bringing from external system, that should become as it is. Okay. You do not need to do any of the manipulation of data. Let's bring the raw data from externals and that keep into a BDS. Do not do any manipulation. Why we need this? Suppose if you when you created your Prism data source and you need to go and debug your Prism data source, okay, but this is not working right. Okay. So first I need to see, okay, how the raw data is coming in. So when I need to see, okay, how raw data is coming in, I need to go into base data sets. That is when we prefer to keep our raw data into a BDS. Okay. Now, how we can bring this data into Workday? Okay. Um, what's the other way where we can bring this data? One is a upload. Upload means uh, as let me go to the same example, learning one. We need to bring some data from our learning module. Okay. Where we have some field like the course content, the course uh, enroll date, the completion status, or the certification status. Some data is there, right? Okay. We need to bring all this data into Workday. How we can bring that? First is upload. Now, this upload can be done with the external data, but how? We have some limitation. We can upload only CSV file format into a Prism. We cannot upload any other data format. We cannot upload a Word file or Excel file or any other file. If we need to bring the data into Workday through external data, we need to bring data into a CSV file format. Okay. Second option, definitely we can bring this. So how we can upload the data? We can someone give me that data into either by mail or someone put into my local drive and I can upload that data into my Prism. This is one way, but not the secure one. Okay, not the secure one. Probably we have some other PI data which we do not want to bring via local system or via mail or via other mail chain. What are the other options? Many of you work for integrations. SFTP. Okay, we can extract the same data, but make sure that data also into a CSV file format. We can create a SFTP server. We have the ID password which we can convert into Prism and then bring that data into a Prism. This is the second way to bring data. Third one is custom reports. As I mentioned you one of the use case, Suppose we have two data source called expense system and the worker system. We need to bring this data uh, into one common platform, one common data source. How we can do that? We can blend data to custom reports. So how we can extract data from into Prism data source with the existing custom report. Okay. So these are three basic uh, way where we can bring data into our base data sets, which we also known as a BDS. Okay. So whenever we give a name of the data set, if it is BDS where we bring in a raw data, make sure we put a BDS at the end of the naming of the Prism dataset or the initial. That's on you how your company naming convention work. Okay, but that should be a BDS should be there. Okay, so that we able to know this is a BDS. One is other way also which I show you here. Type. Okay, what is this type DDS also? But I prefer. I'm not saying this is anywhere we keep the BDS or whatever. I prefer we can keep something in name also as a BDS. So we know this is a base data set. We can see also here type, but this is much better if we can keep something in name also. If this is BDS or this is DDS or this is BDS. Okay. So as I mentioned, like if you need to do anything with the Prism, you cannot do on a common Workday page, the login, the home page. You need to go to this data catalog, right? You should go to this data catalog. Let me explain you first how this data catalog looks like. So if you see this data catalog, you can see all of this. Probably I can tell this data catalog is our administrator's pool of vision. Okay. So who the client, not client, the tenant where we have the Prism enabled, only you can see this Prism this data catalog. If it is not Prism enabled, you cannot find this data catalog. First. And second, you hope you are the part of the domain security of Prism. So these are the things which you can view on the data catalog. First is all data tables or data set, whatever. Then we have other thing also like table data sets. One of the C you can see Prism usage. We have, I think initially when we buy the license from Workday, we got around 2 terabyte of data. Okay. So if you see this much of the byte space we already using for the Prism. Normally, as I mentioned, like if you buy any license for any other client, Workday give you 2 terabyte of the space for Prism. And if you need to increase that, probably you have to pay more. But 2 terabyte is a good data for Prism for current system. I did not heard any of the client which need to buy more than that. Okay. This is one of the things, and this normally I probably go to data set also, but normally we use to see okay if any of the data set if some join or some performance to we also go and see how many data or how the disk used is used. Okay, we can go into data one later on. First, let me away. How we can create a data set. So for here, if you see create anything which we need to create, either we need to create a BDS or DDS or PDS. You need to see here create. Okay. When you say create, you can see all this option. Table, data set from SFTP, from file, some construct report, data change tasks. Okay. So what's the step? We need to create a BDS. So when we say we need to create a BDS, definitely we need to select from these three options. From file, from SFTP, from custom report. If you need to create a DDS, then we have this data set which will come later on. First, let me go into BDS. From file, okay. Okay, let me create some files first. Just for example. Okay, so this is not as supposed to be there. Probably I can put some file for tomorrow later on. But this is a way, one of the way where you can bring data into Prism by external file. And if you see, as it's a CSV file, so you need to put okay, what is my row delimiter, how it's coming, it's comma, the semi pipe or semicolon, how the CSV file is created at your end, you can put accordingly. Okay, let me see, I said comma. Okay, so this is not the right way. Probably I can use that. Probably I can bring it later on. Okay, so this is one of your BDS is ready. Now I go to data catalog again. One of the options is second option is you can create from SFTP. Probably we are not able to show you because we didn't have SFTP. This is a tool which you get. You have the file name which you need to bring in. This is SFTP address. All this, so who already worked for integration in the past, they know how to bring the file from SFTP server. Okay, so this is SFTP. Normally we receive from a client, or if you're using some external vendor, they will bring this all the detail to you, and you can bring this data here. I'm not able to bring it right now. The second way. Third way, some custom report. Okay. So when you see this one, you can got this custom report. And only you can see this option for those custom report. Who are first must be enabled as a web service. If you see, right? Then this option also Prism enabled for Prism. Okay. Let me do one thing. Let me create a custom report. If this is just for out of box. So when you create a custom report, okay, this is my personal suggestion. Keep this unchecked. Okay, you enable this when you have created this report, and how that helps you. Uh, Suppose if you have creating a so many field your custom report, 10 or 15 or 20 report field, okay, and you suppose one field is the same name or very lengthy name or the long name, you need to give XMLize, right, in the web service. Sometimes it's have a duplicate one or sometimes having some issue, so you need to correct that. What happened if you uncheck this or check this later on? You created all the custom report. When we check later on, that automatically created a XMLize as the new one or the unique one. Do not need to edit anything new one. So I prefer to check this later on instead of initial. And sometimes if you do not this report as a web service also, I found this is my personal experience. Okay, we found people also put this enable the web service, even if you're not using this report as a web service. Okay. I do not put this enable the web service because I want to show you something. So you see this enable web service, okay? Make it enable web service. What do you get? Select as the enable web service checkbox to enable the report for Prism. Okay? That is what I mentioned. You do not use a report in Prism if that is not enabled as a web service. Okay. So we must enable this report as a web service. And now I go here. Select my one. Okay, you can either put prompt here and you can type. So this will help you to tune your performance of your Prism, because if you need to bring all this data right now. So run now. This is a very important thing. Run now. Okay. Why this is important? Probably you should get it later on. Sometime, suppose you created some of the Prism data source, okay, and you link some of the report, which uh, like this one, right? Worker detail report. People coming into, right? Some suppose 5 people hired this month. Next month we have 10 people hired. I'm just giving example, okay? So we have 5 people more comes in the data, right? So Prism do not automatically pick that if you blending that custom report into your Prism. Okay. So what we need to do, we need to put some occurrence. Okay. We need to make sure my report run some specific duration. So we'll pick the latest data from a custom report. Okay. And this is as it is work, how other schedule work, right? We are doing not right now, we just put right now, say run now. Okay. This will give me the dataset name. This is also my Prism custom report PDS. So some as it is right now. Show this to one replace and append. What it means, uh, as I mentioned, like suppose you're using one of the custom report which can bring my more 5 row data into next month or whatever. Okay. So if you put replace, it will run all the report from the start and will repeat all of the report out. Okay. But if we just need to use the append one, we just added new field and we do append one, we can just say append. But normally we prefer to use replace. Suppose you also have some termination, right? So probably some data is also not registered in your custom report. So this depends on the use case. Normally, if this is you can use as per use case, but normally we just put replace, okay, where we replace all of the custom report data. Someone is deleted, someone is added. We can replace this data with the replace one. Say okay. This is as it is work when you're running the report. Okay. So if you see done, you can see this is done, right? Okay, but let me show you. View. This is published. Okay, this is published. If you for not published, actually this bring all the data. Sometime what happens if you go to this publishing activities, see activities. This one. Sometimes what happen if you bring in the data from our custom report which have a huge data, okay, sometimes huge data. We say okay, done. We created a custom data source. I said okay, I have this Prism BDS is ready, and we start creating a DDS or probably later on. But sometimes what happen? that report is still running in the background. That will not pull all the data. So we need to make sure this this status should be completed. Okay? This is for debugging. Sometimes we see, okay, why do some all data is not comes in, is any there error or whatever. We need to go and check the status, especially for a custom report, not for every. Okay. Now, if you open this BDS, you can see all this field. Let me see one thing. Why data is not. What thing which I also want to show you. If you want to see which report holding this data, okay, we can see this from this way. If you see this report name here, this will help you. Okay, which report from where begin. I prefer to put this into a description or tag whatever. But if you're not putting that one, you can see this from this. Other ones is a sample data. I think this field is not having sample data, so they will give So here you can see we have the sample data. We can increase this view. Okay. We can increase this view to see if we want to see more data. Normally we keep the default as a 1K. So base data is done. Now what is the derived data set? So right now you see, right, I bring what I did. I bring all this data. So you see, I bring all the data from into base data set as a raw. Now what happened? Just take example, blending. Just take a first example. I bring data from external system called learning. Okay. What data I have? I have a worker, a worker name. I have date of birth. I have enrollment date, and I have the completion status. Right. In Workday, I have the worker field. I have the worker name field. But as a Workday, as I'm not using the learning content or learning module, I do not have the enrollment field. I do not have the completion status field. Okay. But how I came to know which worker is completed the course. Suppose in learning tool, they are not using Workday, they do not have the whole data, or they have, we need to make a link, right? Which worker completed the which worker one, right? Which courses. So we need to blend the data. That we call blending a data. There's a many way to blend the data, which we can discuss later on. Or to manipulate the data. Probably I can say manipulation of data. We need to make some changes on the data, right? I can give you what manipulation which we can do. All thing we can do or we are doing in a derived data set. So derived data set is very important. We should have only one base data set and only one prism data set. Okay, for one of the lineage. We have different base data sets also, but normally if we have one relationship where we need to bring the data from one into one derived data set, we should have one base data set and we should have one PDS prism data set. But we have a multiple DDS because we need to do so much of blending that we can go later on how we can do blending. So we have multiple derived data sets where we have different manipulation or different blending in all other regions. So that is we do into a derived data set, which we can also mention or name label it DDS. Okay. So if you see the definition, a derived data set is a data set that is based one or more existing data sets. Okay. Now the last one is on PDS, but before I jump into PDS, I will show you everything on DDS, how DDS works. We created a PDS. Okay. We created PDS. Now I need to create a DDS. Okay. So how we can create it first? I say create. You can see this derived data set. I said DDS. Okay. So you saw the difference, right? While we're creating a BDS, we have option called either file, custom report, SFTP. But when we say create a DDS, we have all this option which we can create from a existing BDS or the existing DDS or existing PDS also, which is one of the definitions called a derived data set is a data set that is based on one or more existing data set. Probably I can say is a blending of more than one data set into one of the derived data set. So ask modified, you can use this one, just select. So when you say select, it's just automatically pull the import of Prism report DDS, but normally I do not prefer to keep this. I go like DDS. Space is there. Okay. So I remove the space. It says save. Now I can say edit. This is very important for Prism. The DDS is very small thing which you can do is PDS also very small thing which you can. This DDS is very important because what we can do all the manipulation or data blending with the right here. Okay. So if you see this stage, this is very important, which I can guide you later on. But basic thing I can lead till now. If you see add a stage, you can see all this options. Okay. Filter, group by, join, manage field, union, on private. I can go through one by one. Okay. That we all can do in a DDS. Okay. And if you see this import, this will show you how we importing the BDS. Like what is a root file where we getting this data. Okay. I stop it here. And I'm not doing it right now. Reason is that I want to go by the content. Okay. I will tell you how this works one by one. But not right now. I will definitely tell you how this works. The group by, the filter, the manage field, everything. Okay. Now I can say first one not doing anything, so it's not giving me an option. One of the problem which normally people do, I just give you example. I say manage field. See, this is highlighted as a date. This time, giving a heads. I said done. Normally people do they change something, but they forget to put that button save. Okay, I found this is very common mistake people do. Well, they initially working for Prism. They forget to put this button save. Okay, sometimes we do so many stuff. We have so many stages here, and we forget to put that into a save button. That will that if you do not put this save button, that will like remove or do not save anything what you done for this DDS. Okay, so make sure whenever you make change in, put this save. Okay, so this is very basic of DDS, which another thing which we explain later on the classes. But Okay, so last part on the DDS data set is Prism data source, which we also know as PDS. We name it PDS. So PDS is something I can go with the reading what we say. The Prism data source is a type of Workday data source that gets created when you publish a data set. So when you publish a data set, then you can use that PDS as a data source. Okay, and you can create a report on that one. I'm not going through that depth one right now. I'm just going to definition. Probably definitely I can go through when we have the blend data and when we have the final PDS string. Then I go through this one. Okay. These are some definitions. Are created by colleague by volunteer organizations, have their own primary business object, can be deleted from it and by unpublishing. Yeah, this is very important. Sometimes what happened, we created some data set, like suppose the FTF. This is training tenant, so we have so many PDFs, right? Suppose the company is saying, okay, we need to release some of the data. We do not need this PDS, all this one. Just release it, okay? Delete it. You cannot delete the PDS until unless you unpublish it. So if you need to release any PDS from your system, you need to unpublish that. Okay. And this is one thing. Let me show you. I say create. Now, when you're creating a PDS, also this will also go with a derived data set because PDS is also one of the DDS. You just name it PDS because you're publishing it. Okay? So I say derived data set. I use this. Select. See space. I do not want a space. Set PDS because I have to publish it. Yeah. So normally, as I mentioned, I do not encourage the people to do any manipulation or any data massaging in DDS. Similar thing, I do not want to do anything or on the PDS. Okay, my PDS should be priorities. What we need to do on the DDS side. Okay, we do not want this PDS to be manipulated. Okay, but suppose this is my PDS, so I say published. It will take little time because you do not have much data. Just to showcase to you, just doing. Now your PDS ready. Okay, so you see this lineage. You have this BDS. So if you see now, what I want to show you, if you see this color, blue one, okay, this is giving a trick. If you want to see, suppose the name is there, definitely that helps us. But if there's no name is there, and if you want to debug any of the existing Prism data set, if it is blue there, that means this is a PDS where we bring the raw data, either from file or custom report SFT. If it is orange line, this is a DDS. Okay. As I mentioned, PDS is also DDS, so you can see orange line, but this is published. So you can see this is a border of blue color there. Okay. So this is one of the other identifications where you can define, okay, is this PDS or DDS or published one. Which one is published? You can see the border line outside of that one. I know that we don't not able to do so. Let me see. Go on file one. They make these changes with the new release. Earlier we did not have that option. So question is that yes, but earlier we not able to change that. So we face so many problems from many of the clients. We need to recreate again because of this naming issue. Yes. When good speed. I hope you all understanding what we try to explain here. That is very important. Yeah. So if you see some of the description only support some report types, reason you all know, right? Why this is support one of the report types? And last line only support some calculated field. Can you present this like um some of the like if we use the custom report which is on Prism data source, we cannot use all the calculated field type. So these are the calculated field which supported by Prism: automatic, numeric constant, convalidate constant, substring, date difference, immediate expression. We cannot use other one because one the multi-instance we cannot be bring into a Prism. So these are the only some of the Prism supported calculated field. These are some limitations with the Prism right now. Probably hope in the future we have overcome with this limitation. We already put that be an advanced report, be enabled as a web service, be enabled as a prim analytical if you need to create report import into dataset. Some of the optimizations tips: use index data source wherever possible, as I use the SCM for worker. Okay. Use data source that provide a small. This is the optimization performance, not for Prism. Every reporting perspective, if you need to use this, this is the optimization performance tips. Okay. That we just mentioned. Okay, now what report we can build with the custom with the Prism data source? I think we can create all the report type: advanced, composite, matrix, simple, because this is just we use a custom data source for us, right? So how the data source works. Only limitation is that uh, some calculated field. Otherwise, you can create any of the report type. You can. I know someone said bot, so you can create a bot also. We created a bot from Prism. So if your data source, you can stack data into Workday, and if the Workday have the custom report, you can create bot on that one. Simple as it is. I already told all this. You can make all these pages you want, adding Prism calculator. If I will go into that, how we created the page and the stages. When you done, click save to save all changes to dataset. So this thing we already explain you how we can create a data. So let me go to some key point which I want to introduce for a recap of today's session. Uh, and let me show you something more. I did not have access to tenant right now. I don't know why. Okay, so some of the key thing which we understand and which we learned today. We need to create a prism. Anything in the prism, you need to go to data catalog. Okay, this is a platform, or probably you can say which is a platform where you can do all with the prism. Okay, before the prism data source is published and ready to use. So you need to go to data catalog. There's a two way to go to data catalog. Now, one, you can search in a search button and say data catalog, which can give you, or you can add that data catalog into your home as a dashboard or workload. Then you also can click and see the data catalog. Then you can create your base data set and prism data set. Only one thing, while you're creating a base data set, just put your naming initials first so that we know which is data set is created by you. And so you also can refer which data set is created by you. And try to be create your one. Probably you're not able to create, you have some issue, let it be. Okay, we can bring all this issues to another session and we see where we started. And I can go through on that again, because as I mentioned, this is not a class where you do go and give the exam. This is a class where you understand and deliver for the client internally or external. Okay. So when we have this data catalog ready, you need to create a base data set from two way. One from external file, which you can create yourself, and second from a custom report. Let it be complete by tomorrow. Tomorrow, what we can do, we will show how we blend the data. What is the other way which we can blend the data? Okay. But before we that, let me cover some more important thing on the Prism side. We already discussed this. What Workday Prism, what is defined. There's a definition just for theoretical thing. Data acquisition, which we can do on a BDS. Okay, that called data acquisition. There's a three type of data acquisition which you can do by external file, by SFTP, or by custom report. Second is data transformation, which we do on DDS, where we can do data massaging, data blending, data transformation as per your use case. Third is publishing, which is PDS. You can publish your data source, data set, and you can create your custom data source. And on that data source, you can create a report. Okay. But everything you do in a data catalog. This is very common image for Prism. Normally Workday, so for everyone, how this bring Workday data, non-Workday data, and you can have this data outside of your system also. And we can bring all. So Prism is used normally. Some people ask me, can we use this Prism data outside of Workday? But that is not intent to use a Prism. Prism is intent to use all the data bring into Workday. Okay. These are some key keywords for Prism. If you work for Prism, many people ask you, go to data catalog. If you're not aware of the Prism first, really ask me what's the data catalog. This is a central location where user can access and create Prism data set. Next keywords is data set. Okay, where we have all the data set which I explained, base, dive, and publish. The table which I also explain later on, how we bring the data or store data into a table format. There's a proof thing. If you see this calculated field, Prism calculated field. Uh, we have in Workday we have so many calculated field function, but Prism also gives some of the function which we can use to blend the data or the transform the data, okay, which I also explain later on. Just take example. Suppose that there's a field called base salary. Right? And base salary have a field. Sometimes this field come as a in Workday as a dollar sign or what a currency sign it is. Dollar 100 or 1,000, right? In Workday, if you just need to bring the number value, suppose because we're blending data from external, so we cannot use the external file as a currency field. That field is a uh, integer numeric one, and from Workday it's coming as a string field currency field for me. So normally, for if using Workday report, and I ask you, okay, just bring me only the currency value. What you will do? Sorry, currency symbol, not value. Currency symbol. What you will do in Workday report? How you bring that? Anyone? Suppose you're using a Workday reporting and you have field called base pay, but somehow the client says, okay, I do not want. I also want one field where I can see the currency symbol. And also do not have that field exist in our data source. Can we have the calculated? We have one calculated field which help us to bring this data. Service syntax to help you to get that value. In Prism, we have similar type of thing, but it's very easy. If you know how to bring, there's a field called extract to. I just try to remember that field. That will, with the help of one line, you can bring that currency value and number into two different columns. So that is the two definition between calculated field, which we use in Workday, and that's other definition with the Prism calculated field, okay, which we go to later on. Okay. Report data source and Prism data source is two different report data source, which we Workday custom data report, Workday standard data source, which we have. Okay. Prism data source is a Prism data source which we can publish or create a custom as per our use case. Publish is something which we need to publish to have our data source which we can use for reporting. What is pipeline and what is the stage? All this I can show lineage. I show you the lineage, right? Lineage is very help us to know. Sometimes we have the Prism uh, report published. Right now, I show very straightforward. Sometimes it's very complex one, and lineage help us to know how the data flow in. Will do. Okay, where which TDS I use, which BDS I use. Okay, lineage is something which you can view, and that will give you okay, how the data is flowing into a Prism data source.